Explanation conclusion. The death, the death and the despair and the destruction of civilization, society, the world aren't now. Aren't now. Aren't now. They're the limiting of time, the focus and the concentration on the body, its hormones, its chemicals, and the freedom for people to get a stimulus, for people to stimulate, for people to love, for people to just emotionally satisfy and restrict. People used to restrict emotions, especially when I was little. Come up, put the hand on your head. Total stranger. And now there's algorithms. Mystery. Unrecognizable. Confusing. Misdirecting. Colors and pictures and words and descriptions and video games, beeping sounds, drug dealers, addicts, police who tell the addict and the abuser they'll help. And stare at me as if I'm a long hallway with a sign, as if I'm some tall building with the spiral staircase, making sure that I do not have the anxiety described in the Fortnite video on the front page of YouTube, and the lack of control to control that part of body and brain and mind. They've made these people who think in this frame of mind, who have these thoughts, who teach people about their bodies in this way to limit their hormones and to be less than who they are normally. Are making stuff so intelligent, so complex, so deep, so powerfully brilliant and smart and breathtaking. A person like Joe Rogan can go take a puff of some weed and then go take a drop of acid. And when a person like me comes along and says, why can't I ever be on your show and help people like those people you have on from Stanford and MIT and all those prestigious places, and put myself at more risk for more assault, for more violence and anger, and restricting behavior from the person I'm talking about. Having free speech, sending a letter to the White House saying, gosh, please don't take this as a demand or an insult, but gosh darn, heck, shoot, shit, fuck, gosh, dang. There is gonna be no stopping what people are going to do to each other in this kind of world they're making. When they take the body and the brain and the mind and they take psychological cognition and make not the last invention of artificial intelligent robots, the last closed loop. A freaking force field in their Star Wars movies with their lightsabers. Reducing the amount of different opinions. Maybe to 2, maybe to 1, and then eventually 0. Women never get abused. Men never argue, never yell, never scream. Women never have voices in their head, never have unexplained emotions. And men don't ever fight, don't ever murder, don't ever sell drugs, don't ever do drugs. And women don't ever date those men, don't ever marry those men, don't ever do a socially irresponsible activity, task, decision, or make a choice. The men don't support and love and admire. Nobody's walking around similar to an absent-minded professor with their jaw on the floor, almost literally, with the awe, inspiring beauty from having no fear anymore, for not having some afraid, described emotion, and finally being able to think, feel, do, and love, all by themselves. In other words, there's nobody telling them what to do. Aside from when there's a problem, when there's too much confusion, when there's too much misdirection, and there's folks who just don't want to do stuff on their own. They like having that person tell them what to do. They like having that drug dealer tell them where they need to go in the city to get their crack and meth. Military servicemen, women, transgender, gay, straight, multicultural, who want the training of the mind in the military. to have the body and the brain. In so many words, camouflaged when they're done serving their country. Being able to defend themselves when someone attacks them. Being able to say to someone who's telling them they need to control their self, to either allow the freedom or suffer the consequences. A closed loop made by Google, made by these technological places, and, you know, sounding like a manifesto from someone looking from the outside in. But plain and simple, this system with these processes of limiting the body and controlling the brain and having the mind socially responsible and aware and always saying the right word and always doing the right gesture and always paying attention to the decision being made. They're infinite inside. Until someone gets sick, until someone gets so distracted by the beeping sounds that they make a person listen to on their video channel on the internet or their audio station on the device. For the simple and recognizable boringness consciousness gets from the same old sound, the hyper limits reaching stimulated image from the flashing lights and the faces and the voices and the hands and the benefits, hormonally silencing a person like me who they say, oh, you can't make that voice. You're being racist. You're being rude. You're being disrespectful, and you need to be shut up. And there's only one choice. Do you go towards the finger and risk pain and violence, or do you go away in fear and terror and feel the bodily effects from their plan? People end up breaking the loop, blowing their way out, quite probably physically. Committing suicide, staying totally quiet, getting fat and obese, and eventually succumbing to the enclosed box-like loop they've made for the world and the society and the place called Earth, for the better good and end of all problems. The end.